In a quiet corner of South Carolina, one family name carried more power than almost anyone else.
For generations, a prominent local family stood close to the justice system. Their name was spoken in courtrooms and recognized across the coastal area.
At the center of the story was the central figure, a lawyer from a family that seemed almost untouchable. From the outside, the family looked successful. But appearances can be dangerous when they hide the truth.
In 2019, a boat crash brought unwanted attention to the prominent local family, a young individual. By 2021, the pressure around the central figure was growing. Prosecutors would later say he was hiding stolen money. On June 7, 2021, everything changed. A quiet night at Moselle would become the beginning of a national scandal. A short video on Paul's phone would later become one of the most important pieces of evidence. It was ordinary, brief, and never meant to solve a murder. Later that night, the central figure called 911. He said he had found his wife and his son near the kennels. At first, investigators looked for an outside threat, but soon the timeline, the phone data, and Alex's own words became the center of the case. As investigators began asking questions, Alex told them he had not been at the dog kennels shortly before the murders. But inside Paul's phone, investigators found a short video that changed the entire timeline. During the trial, witnesses who knew the family identified voices in the background of that video as the son, the wife, and the central figure. Eventually, Alex admitted that he had lied. He said the lie came from paranoia and addiction, but prosecutors saw something much darker. Prosecutors argued that Alex was not only hiding where he had been, he was hiding years of stolen money, broken trust, and financial deception.
Its theory was disturbing. The central figure's world was collapsing, and the tragic events created sympathy that shifted attention away from his secrets. The defense told a different story. Alex had lied, they admitted. He had stolen money. But they argued that none of it proved he killed his wife and son.
The jury had to decide which story the evidence supported: a desperate man exposed by his own lies, or a flawed investigation built on suspicion. In 2023, the jury reached a decision believed had closed the case.
By the time the case reached court, the family name no longer represented only power. It had been. The prosecution told jurors that the central figure's life was collapsing. The tragedy at Moselle gave him exactly what he needed. The defense argued that the central figure was a liar and a thief, but not a murderer. They said the state had built a story, not proof.
In this case, the smallest digital traces became powerful. Phone records, timestamps, unanswered messages, and a short video from the kennels. A short recording from that night became a turning point. It did not show the crime, but it challenged the timeline and raised questions that could not be ignored.
When Alex admitted he had lied about being there, the question became unavoidable. If he lied about the timeline, what else was hidden?
The prosecution said the motive was pressure: stolen money, exposed lies, and a life that was no longer under control.
The defense argued that financial crimes could explain shame and fear, but they did not prove murder beyond a reasonable doubt. The jury had to decide whether the evidence revealed guilt, or whether the state had built a powerful story from suspicion and pressure.
Day after day, the trial revealed pieces of a hidden life. Money, lies, pressure, phone. As the trial neared its end, the central question became simple but heavy. Did the evidence prove the state's theory, or did reasonable doubt remain?
The defense asked the jury to slow down. A person can lie, a person can hide shame, and still the law must ask one. After weeks of testimony, the decision moved behind closed doors. 12 jurors now had to decide the meaning of the evidence. In 2023, the jury reached a guilty verdict. He was sentenced to life in prison. The powerful lawyer from a prominent local family had fallen in front of the same justice system his name once helped define. But even after the verdict, the family's story did not become simple. One legal chapter ended, and another was about to begin. The appeal focused on the conduct of the court clerk. and whether outside influence had affected the jury's view of the case. The case moved from the murder trial to the question of fairness. Even a hated defendant is entitled to an impartial jury. In 2026, the South Carolina Supreme Court overturned the murder convictions and ordered a new trial.
The ruling did not declare the accused innocent. It meant the original trial could not stand. The case involving the tragic events would have to be fought again.
Alex remained imprisoned because of his financial crimes, but the murder case was no longer finished.
Behind every legal argument were real lives lost, real families grieving, and pain no verdict could fully repair. Everything in this story leads back to the same place: a quiet road, a private estate, and a night that shattered a dynasty. The Murdaugh case is not only about crime, it is about power, image, money, and what happens when a protected life begins to collapse. Reputation is not the same as character. Behind a respected name, there can be secret. A new trial means the evidence may return, the witnesses may return, and the same questions may be asked again. For the state, a new trial would mean rebuilding the same story: pressure, lies, timeline, phone evidence, and motive.
For the defense, a new trial would mean another chance to challenge the state's theory. Jurors still.
For the public, the case became even more haunting. A verdict once seen as final had been pulled back into uncertainty.
Two questions now remain. What happened at Moselle? And did the first trial reach its answer fairly?
The Murdaugh name once stood for authority. Now it stands inside one of the most complicated true crime stories in modern America. Before Moselle, there was already loss. Before the trial, there were already cracks. The boat crash brought attention the family could no longer control. The financial crimes revealed another truth. Behind the powerful name, trust had been broken long before the murder trial began.
A few seconds of video became the piece that pulled Alex back to the place he said he was not.
The next trial may ask the same questions again. The evidence may return, the arguments may return, and the uncertainty may return with them.
This case is a warning that power can protect secrets for years, but it cannot protect them forever. It's a powerful family, a fatal boat crash, hidden money, a night at Moselle.
Was this the story of a desperate man exposed by his own lies, or a flawed trial that left the final answer out of reach?
Until a new trial gives another answer, the Murdaugh family murders remain a story of power,